So I came across a headline today that caught my attention on Reddit, and it seems like a pretty messed up story. The headline was police travel 500 miles to seize girl's pet goat for slaughter. And obviously when you see a headline like that, you're gonna have to dig in a little deeper, especially when you see it on the front page of Reddit with multiple subreddits posting about it. So I decided to read the article, or at least one of the articles that I came across, and it in fact is a pretty messed up story, and it seems that now there's even gonna be a lawsuit over this goat. And I wanna just kind of talk about it right now. So the article opens up by saying that a federal civil lawsuit alleges that the sheriff's deputies from Shasta County, California, traveled across the state to seize a little girl's beloved pet goat for slaughter. New reportings detail how they may have violated the law in doing so. So according to the lawsuit, Jessica Long and her daughter, who was 9 years old at the time, only referred to as EL, attended the Shasta District Fair. The fair includes a junior livestock auction in which members of 4-H youth programs exhibit farm animals that they've raised. At the end, the animals are sold off to the highest bidders to be slaughtered for meat. The fair takes 7% of the sale, and the kids get to keep the rest. So it seems that last April, Long purchased her daughter a goat whom they named Cedar. From then until the fair, EL, Long's daughter, fed and cared for Cedar every day. She bonded with the animal just as she would have with a pet puppy or something like that. At the fair, State Senator Brian Dahl was Cedar's highest bidder, pledging $902. By then, EL had second thoughts about sending her new four-legged friend to die. So then her and her mother tried to withdraw the goat from the competition, but were told that was against the rules. And this is like where it gets really messed up, right? Because at this point, the auction's over. The little girl is just sobbing. She doesn't want to give up her goat. She's literally standing at its pen crying and refusing to leave its side and doesn't want to give them up for auction. So before any money changed hands at the auction, Long and her daughter tried to end the contract. She told representatives of the fair that she would happily pay the 7% fee that they would have gained from the sale, which was about like $63. Then she took Cedar home. This is where things kind of go wrong for them, because she takes Cedar home and then decides to take him to another farm in a different county because she was expecting some controversy from this whole ordeal at the auction. So then a few days later, the livestock manager who works for the state agency that runs the fair calls up the girl's mother and says, hey, if you don't return Cedar the goat, we're going to charge you with felony grand theft. And so this is the part that I don't really understand, and I wasn't sure when I read the article. It says like she offered to let the fair keep the entire $900 for the goat, but since it also says that no money changed hands at the auction, I'm assuming that that was her attempt to try to just pay for the full price of the goat if they would have sold it. And she also reached out to the senator who won the bid and asked him if it would be an issue. He agreed that he would not resist her efforts to save Cedar from slaughter, but still the livestock manager wouldn't budge. Obviously, her mom was trying to do everything that she could to make this right. And I'll link this article in the description if you're interested in reading the article. But in an email to the Fair Association, Long wrote of her efforts to make things right with the buyer and the fairgrounds, mentioning the support of the buyer and offering to pay for the goat and any other expenses it may have caused. The CEO of the Fair Association gets involved, and she is completely unmoved and wrote back that she was not unsympathetic to the little girl's plight, but said, please understand that the fair industry is set up to teach our youth responsibility and for the future generations of ranchers and farmers to learn the process and effort it takes to raise quality meat. Making an exception for you will only teach our youth that they do not have to abide by the rules that are set up for all participants. She concluded that it was out of her hands and that Long would need to bring Cedar the goat back to the Shasta District Fair immediately. So she was basically saying like, hey, like, you know, the rules are the rules. If I do this, then every kid's going to pull out their goat in the next auction, and we can't have that because they can't have the kids at the 4-H club pulling out their livestock from the state fair because it will just ruin the economy in that county. So understandably, this lady was just like, hell no. No, I'm just kidding. It sounds like she was being a bitch and just completely heartless. This kid who raised a goat and felt bad about it was just 9 years old, and she was a little girl who got attached to her pet and didn't realize what she was committing to when she was putting him up. And, you know, she was 9. Like, she's 9. give her a break. She's just a kid. Then she emailed an official State Department Food and Agriculture saying that the organizer of the community barbecue has contacted her lawyers regarding the theft of the goat donated to the barbecue. So 2 weeks later after the fair, the sheriffs get a search warrant to go get Cedar and return him to Shasta County from Napa County. But the thing is, he was in Sonoma County. So they end up driving like 500 miles to get this goat and using up all these resources to get this goat to return him to the people at the fair. And they end up returning him to a third party and didn't really process him right. So at this point, there's no telling where Cedar the goat is, and it's assumed that the worst has happened and that he was slaughtered. Then in September, Jessica Long filed a lawsuit against the 3 officers that were involved and is alleging violations of the 4th and 14th Amendment and seeking damages. Her attorney stated that while it hasn't been concerned as a factual matter, we believe that the goat Cedar has been killed. So this story does not have a happy ending for anyone, especially the goat and especially the little girl who really cared for this goat. And it's just a bad look. What are you doing, Shasta County? What are you doing, Shasta District Fair? Clearly see this is a case where one person made a really bad judgment call and tried to kind of stick by their guns for something that didn't really seem that important to stick to. That's something that didn't seem that you should have been so stern about, and you should have cut a little girl some slack, especially since everyone that was involved in the situation was pretty cool about it, including the parent that was trying to make it right and pay for everything, including the person who won the auction and said that they weren't going to fight the parent on trying to take the goat back, and they were cool with letting the goat go. And really, this was one of those cases where this could have ended so easily and no one would have been hurt, and you would have had a happy little girl, and you wouldn't be all over the internet right now looking like an asshole. So unfortunately, it didn't end well for Cedar the goat, and sadly, this isn't a happy ending for anyone. Hopefully, this doesn't cause long-term trauma to this girl, but I couldn't see how it wouldn't. This is definitely a sad case, and I feel bad for the goat. I especially feel bad for the girl, and I hope that things are made right and that somehow this can end up having a better ending than it does right now, because right now it's a pretty shitty ending to Cedar's story, and I wish nothing but the best for the little girl and hope that things work out for her.